welcome here to a very special piece of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. In our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Alfred University, we have the opportunity to share the Saxons with you weekly, Mondays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So we have in off weeks bi-monthly we have the presidential perspective, which we'll be featuring here today with president of Alfred University Mark Zupan, and then we have the Saxons Spotlight, which is student athletes, administration, coaches, and more coming to you on those middle weeks in between. So the presidential perspective as well as the Saxons Spotlight, two pieces that are exclusive to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in our wonderful partnership with Alfred University. It's hard to believe that it's not even been 3 weeks, Mark, but I've had so much fun. Our feedback's been incredible. The amount of people that have watched and chimed in and the congratulations have been absolutely amazing. And, I feel very blessed and appreciative of that. So, not even 3 weeks in, and it's already been a lot of fun, and it's been tremendous in the response that we've gotten. So I want to start off by first and foremost thanking you again for believing in my vision and my mission here and for the partnership that we've started.
Our pleasure and honor, Dan. Thank you for providing the opportunity. Thank you for being willing to partner with us. And we're equally pleased. So the feeling's mutual, and let's keep building.
Absolutely. So, in this presidential perspective, it gives us an opportunity bi-monthly to hear about different topics through your vision, through your thought process, and, through your seat as the president of Alfred University. So here as we are in the summer and we're getting ready and in just a few short weeks we'll be right back at it again in the students coming back onto campus and different athletic programs preparing here for the fall. What do you kind of go through here when you're in the summer in the midst of the middle of July? What's on the presidential plate at this point in the year?
Um, Great question. We're onboarding students. So this week we welcomed our largest ever class of HEOP students, Higher Education Opportunity Program. They come from throughout the state. Individuals that have more financial challenges in their families or backgrounds that they're often the first in their families to go to college. So giving them a heads up on their studies, on their networking, on the mentoring that we provide. So just started this week that cohort and a lot of energy, and we set up a separate program called the Summer Bridge Program for students that may have similar challenges but don't qualify for state funding. And that got started last year by Jonathan Kent, our enrollment management head. So they also started this week. A number of them are student athletes, so the ones that are playing football or on our football team were all already lifting weights with our coach Bob Rankel. We did a strategic planning retreat yesterday with our board of trustees, the last couple of days ago. And we do that every summer, taking stock what worked last year, what didn't work, what we can learn from, how we plan for this next year, and use them as a sounding board. And these are some of our most successful alums, most loyal friends. And they love us, they know us well, they're not afraid to offer comments, which ideas they think will work or not work. And that's it's the old saying, feedback is the breakfast of champions.
Yeah.
So we take that to heart, and we're spending time on the road. So in a day, we'll be heading out to St. Louis to meet with a couple who want to make a major bequest gift to Alfred University. And so making sure those touch points happen.
Yeah.
We received a gift yesterday from another alum in the Midwest. He and his wife want to set up a scholarship endowment to provide opportunity at Alfred University. So the fundraising goes throughout the year, and we're in the midst of a summer arts program. So as you know, Dan, summer is a wonderful time of year. We try to capitalize on it. We have a program, not only athletics camps, but then also ceramic art camps, glass camps. So high school students can learn particular skills, or older folks as well who want to have a penchant, have never done much throwing a pot on a wheel and want to learn how to do that. We have equestrian camps that are going, and a Most Arts Festival that starts in 2 weeks. One of our music faculty, she's been doing it for 6 years now, so it'll be a major symphony orchestra right in the heart of campus, and pop-up concerts in dinner activities around that time as well. So it's got a Chautauqua type feel this summer.
And you spoke on it, just the creativity piece, right? That there's really never a month off at Alfred University, and seeing, like you said, throw something on a wheel and try something that you've never tried before when it comes to pottery, or see a symphony in the heart of campus. This university being so open to creativity and allowing people to be free and really just find that open canvas, be it through a sport or through art itself, through music, and through their different studies and whatnot in the classroom. You have created such a wonderful environment where people can experience the things that they love, share the things that they love, and also discover the things that they love. What gets you so excited and enthused when it comes to the fact that Alfred University is this breeding ground of just so many avenues of creativity?
So in advance of the strategic planning retreat with our board, we also had 2 dinners with alums in the greater Rochester area, because the retreat was in Rochester. So there are 2 points of differentiation we stress. Number 1, mentoring, and number 2, intersections. When we're on the road meeting with alums and we ask them what they cherish the most, hands down, more than any other place I've been at, they will say, somebody took an interest in me and changed my life for the better.
Yeah.
And that was consistent at both dinners when we asked that question. And we had alums from the 1960s through the 2000s. And there were sometimes faculty members like Bob Heineman, who's retired now, who was mentioned by both the 1970 alum and an alum from 2007. So being able to then send a note later that evening to those faculty members, thanks for making an impact on so many students. That's been a consistent part of the DNA, and we want to keep highlighting and celebrating it, because, as you know, Dan, having 1 or 2 people that say, you could do this, or can help show you, it's a life-changing experience. And then there's only 1 intersection in town right now. The stoplight's down because we're doing some construction around our bridge. We're the only place in the country that has more higher ed institutions than stoplights. Alfred State's right next door.
Yeah.
But the intersections on campus, the curricular to the co-curricular, and how our students, you'll have football kickers that make masks for the theater arts program. We've had engineers that end up also participating in the dance program. So, and one of those engineers, the first person she mentioned the idea to, told her engineers don't dance. But then a faculty member of ours, a mentor, said, we got a dance program, we got an engineering program, we'll make it work. Now this woman is a trustee of ours, runs a publicly traded company out of the Boston area in the medical therapeutic space, is in the National Academy of Engineering. And that combination that she forged, that intersection, she credits to fostering her creativity. And then the last thing, because I think this is key to creativity too, our core value, Dan, is inclusivity. We're the first place fully open to women. Oberlin admitted them first, but you couldn't give talks if you were female for a number of decades. You had to study home economics. Our first class had 22 women and 14 men. We were one of the first places open to African Americans and Native Americans. And so while freedom of speech and thought are important on college campuses, we believe that that's too small a game, that you first have to build a community, because, as you know, you learn from people that are different from you.
Yeah.
Somebody that's grown up in a rural background, you're going to learn something by Ruben was somebody that grew up in New York City, or that grew up in Hong Kong. And so building that community that you can learn to listen, you can learn to build together. One of the alums that came on Tuesday night before the board retreat, she, Korean descent, born in the Philippines, family immigrated to Rochester, School of Art and Design grad. She's the one that's created the Frederick Douglass statues that have gotten national attention, 13 in Rochester. Rochester was the home base for a big part of Frederick Douglass's life. and just to symbolize the impact that individual had on promoting inclusivity. And we found out that Frederick Douglass actually came to Alfred 5 times when he was alive in the 1800s, and remarked how beautiful the setting was and how welcoming the community was. There was a town not too far away where they locked the doors when he was announced as a speaker, but that's been a core value from the start, and we believe that's also important to creativity.
Here in the presidential perspective, a piece of our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Alfred University, with Alfred University's president, Mark Zupan, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and you'll see this bi-monthly. Mark, when you and I had met face to face for the first time after spending some time on Zoom, you sat there in a chair and casually said this, but the kid inside of me was jumping up and down. The adult in me was blown away when you said, "Oh yeah, we have a connection to someone who was an integral part of working with Marvel and taking them from bankruptcy and finding a way for them to, obviously be sold to Disney and changing the entire future of the company to even have a company." I mean, you talk about so many different alumni and what they do and how they give back and being a part of the board and the impact that people have had on them. I would love to go deeper into that story and share that, because selfishly, I love Marvel and I have a Guardians of the Galaxy thing right over my shoulder here. But I just would love for you to share that, because here's Alfred University built into, the mountains of Western New York, and this beautiful, wonderful, just portrait. And we're sitting there on a day during the week, and you just lean back in the chair and start talking about Marvel. And I don't think that that a part of me passed out, even though I stood upright at that point.
Well, glad you didn't pass out, but thank you for sharing that. And the alum's name is Peter Cuneo.
Yeah.
Came to us from New York City, blue collar family, single mom, largely raised him. And she was an EMT nurse, so she took him out on her calls when he was in high school. And so he saw some gruesome stuff growing up. And when you talk to him nowadays, he'll say, it took me a while to get my footing in college.
Yeah.
I was a party animal, interested in socializing. It took him 7 years to finish, a 2.2 GPA, which he will tell you directly. But to the earlier part of our discussion, he will credit a couple engineering faculty members as mentors, that they took him under his wing, had faith in him. So after graduating from Alfred, went to the Navy to serve our country, then to Harvard Business School to earn an MBA. And nowadays, he's one of America's leading corporate turnaround experts. And he credits the rides with his mom as an EMT nurse to dealing with corporate train wrecks. So he took over Marvel Comics when Stan Lee was coming out of bankruptcy, had only $3 million in the bank, converted to Marvel Entertainment,
Yeah.
and sold it to Disney for $4.5 billion. The story of what he did is the best-selling case at Harvard Business School still. And it just saw him in New York City a couple of weeks ago. Still, he will never retire. Every time we see him, he's got a new set of ventures. He had the largest IPO in the tech sector in Britain 2 years ago, electric van company. He's working with Regal Cinemas now because they went into bankruptcy during COVID. How could we repurpose these spaces? And his thought is, well, they're ideal for, let's say, the current concerts going around the country with Taylor Swift, how packed they've been. Could you live cast them just like the Metropolitan Opera is live cast in certain movie theaters, and make more money for Taylor, but also allow more people to benefit from seeing Taylor up close? So he's always got this creative component. And we have an equestrian park center, courtesy of his wife, Maris and Peter. They've given very generously back. He was back a year ago talking to our students about how it's an intimate learning environment like Alfred that allows you to grow as a leader, allows you to benefit from inclusivity, taking chances, having mentors, having these different combinations you can forge. And so it's, and he had one of our students who is majoring in glass, dance, and physics, dress up as Spidey. And she did a role play with him. And Amelia, the student's going to go far too in her own career, because you can already see that talent shining through.
Yeah, and you brought up, Peter coming back to campus recently and doing what was called how to be a superhero leader.
Yep.
And so for you, Mark, what did you take away from his message when he came back to campus? Because it's one thing to teach leadership, but he brought the Marvel piece into it and called it how to be a superhero leader. So how would you describe what a superhero leader is? What did you take away?
He has a variety of different components, integrity, how you treat other people, in terms of uh, being honest with what's actually going on and being willing to run toward a fire as opposed to run away from a fire. Many people, and we all run into challenges. The tendency is to run the other direction, but he's always had a penchant for how do we fix this and building the right team that can address it. So uh, the the chances that he had as a student, how we can continue to be a talent incubator and build on that. It, it resonated with the audience, but it also gave us a lot of heart looking forward that we can keep building on success stories like this. We've got all the ingredients, and
Yeah.
college campuses should be places that create those future superhero leaders. That each individual has that potential, and where we coach our faculty staff, our campus would another superhero of ours. He came to the retreat, Marlon Miller, class of '54 grad. He's given us close to $100 million. Blue collar family from Indiana,
Yeah.
made it big. Um, a dying industry that was making large sewing needles. He converted it to medical technology based firm that made high quality medical instruments for doctors around the country, the cardiologists, et cetera. And Marlon, too, when he was looking at colleges, our then dean said, "Where's your family?" They were in the car, and he gave them a personal tour. And had that personal touch and mentoring and that engagement not happened, our campus would look a lot different. So viewing each student that comes to Alfred as having that potential, that purpose, and helping them realize that purpose, because the more you do that, boy, good things tend to happen.
Well, you're talking about everything being cyclical, right? If you do right in those moments, when you step onto campus and somebody greets you, right? Let's say you have a 2 o'clock walk around campus, you're going to have a tour, and you're 17 years old and you come to Alfred University and you got your mom and dad with you, and you step onto campus and they say, meet us at this building at 2 o'clock. And you walk in and somebody doesn't go, oh, who are you? But they reach their hand out and say, oh, you must be Melissa.
Right.
And I let me see if I have it right. It's Peter and Stephanie, right? Here with Melissa today. That's type of interaction, people remember that forever,
Yeah.
right? And then you take them to different parts of camp. Oh, well, when we were speaking, you said that you are interested in, potentially being part of our equestrian team. And I remember that you said you did a lot with art growing up. You like to draw. You didn't know if you wanted to include that in things that you're going to be working on. To show them that you remember their name, to shake their hand, to look at them in the eye, to remember their hobbies and things that they like, that's down the road 10, 20 years. Now all of a sudden there's a building that's being erected named after this person because they wanted to give back to Alfred University. Now there is going to be a series, where they're going to come back and speak to students that are on campus and whatnot. If you do right by a human being within 10 seconds of time, that 10 seconds could pay off for the next 60, 70 years. And I believe, Mark, you know that all too well.
Uh, at the retreat, our vice chair, Steve Hines from the Syracuse area, and he was a college business student, played lacrosse. The story that he shared at one of these dinners at the recent retreat was he blew out his knee senior year, didn't think he'd graduate. So as he's hobbling along on crutches, he's panicked. I may have to stay here. I don't have the money. I may not finish. Car pulls up. It's our College of Business dean, Miles. Says, Steve, how are you doing? And Steve didn't even realize he knew his name because he hadn't had a class with him directly, but
Yeah.
he knew the story. And Steve said, I was panicked. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off. And Dean Miles said, Steve, you're going to finish. Just get in those assignments. To this day, Steve remembers that act of kindness. He ended up graduating. He now runs a community bank in Frederick, Maryland. He's given generously. He and his wife have. He's coming back to campus to talk to our students. He's hired our students. He's provided a gator among his other philanthropy, so when students get injured, they don't have to go up hills on crutches. Because how to help the next generation and pay it forward. But as you know so well, Dan, those just being human and those small acts of kindness, it's amazing how much they can make a difference to our fellow human beings.
Yeah, I mean, just in this conversation alone, in this edition of the Presidential Perspective, the inaugural episode of it, in less than an hour, the stories, the names, the connections to things that people know all too well, and it's all connected back to Alfred University, because it comes down to caring, being honest, being open, being inclusive, like you said. And when an opportunity arises to help someone, to pay it forward, you take it. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're not saying anything crazy, but yet I'm getting chills sitting in my studio genuinely, because every time I speak with you and every time I'm around Alfred University, I called up my parents when I was on campus and I said, man, if I had come to this campus, I might have ended up here. And and I spent so much time after we had met that day and made the announcement official. I drove around campus to the point where I didn't get home until almost 10 o'clock at night, because I just wanted to see. And as I'm going up, just up and up this hill of campus, I go around the bend and I'm thinking, oh, it ends here. And then it kept going. And then it kept going. And I was like, is this some type of like magical place? Because I thought it ended. And then you go to this building that looks like a castle. Then there's just a deer in the middle of the day that's just grazing around. And then I stop and something inside of me said, why don't you go over there? So I pulled over and I go to this pathway amidst the trees. And I'm walking down this pathway and I turn to my right and I took a video that I'm going to be sharing on our social media. As you turn, it opens up and here's the football field. And it's just this beautiful kind of secret garden pathway that leads down to the football field. And I'm thinking to myself, come into a football game and you're a student here and you come out of your residence hall and you walk out and you just walk down here and you're taking this path all the way down just to get to the football game. It's such a mosaic, beautiful picture being painted. And then I'm walking to another building and I'm seeing this artwork on the outside of it. And then I'm going down this just stretch of residence halls and whatnot. And I'm picturing people on campus. I'm picturing, the vibrant piece of it. And then here you are, right in the center of campus having, this kind of call to action name that's just sitting there, these huge letters that just bounce out to you. And I went and I took pictures in front of it. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you not find yourself being taken by the beauty, the majesty, and this inclusivity of the campus itself, of all of these buildings just around each other? It's the artwork of campus is beautiful upon itself, that I think anybody would be taken aback by it. And I did. I mean, I called up my family, I called up my friends, and I said, I mean, you literally see the sign to Alfred University and you come over this little hill and you bear to your left, and then it just takes over and it's just sitting there and it goes on. And there's so much more than meets the eye, that I was already excited. And now every time I talk about it, it just gives me this energy. It invigorates me that I want to tell everybody about Alfred University, because I have so many things that I've seen there. I mean, I've been to a bunch of campuses around the country. I've seen Division 1, 2, 3 small colleges. And I can honestly say that nothing in my 19 plus years of being a broadcaster looks like Alfred University. And to be unique in a world that is constantly recycling and stealing ideas is a very, very difficult thing to do, but it's a purposeful thing to do. And I have to give you and your team credit for that.
It's been a long time in the building, and we've been around since 1836, so many generations. We have an alumna that moved back to town after being an administrator in a school in Pennsylvania, at Gettysburg College, and she likes to say, and her husband's an alum as well, that it's got this Brigadoon type quality that it's hard to describe, but like what you said, once you've seen it, it's unforgettable.
Yeah.
People also call it a magic valley, and we'll show you the next time. We also have an observatory, so we've got our next astronomy camp that starts on Sunday. And one of the alums that attended one of the dinners this past week grew up in Harlem, and she now runs the iZone in the libraries, the incredibly innovative part of the University of Rochester. And she said what struck her was the first time coming and seeing the stars and how clear the sky was, and just how one of the faculty members, Dave Toot, who teaches astronomy, how he took her under his wing, and what difference he made as a mentor to her. And we still, Dan, we still have a PhD program, so we could still get you to alumni status. So we could do it in an honorary fashion as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, there's so much to talk about, that this presidential perspective is going to take us to moments of things that are happening within, the weeks and months to come. And it's also going to help us do what we did today, which is paint a bigger picture. Why Alfred? Why make your way out to the university and consider becoming a Saxon? So I want to thank.
Closing factoid: when we accept students for admissions, or next class enters, the odds of somebody attending go up by a factor of 40 if they've actually come to visit, because that once you see it, and that's one of the key aspects that we're up to. How do we ensure that people actually experience it? Because it's hard then to not come once you've been here.
Yeah, it's definitely worth the drive or the flight from wherever you are. And I can say that, speaking from my own personal experience, it was 1 million. I didn't regret the drive to or from. In a couple hours from Syracuse, New York, it was so worth it. And honestly, I didn't know how to leave campus. So I had to keep telling myself, you're going to be back. You can take more pictures and videos. You can see more things. But
we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, no. And like you said, being around since the early 1800s, such a beautiful historical connection. And like you said, to being inclusive way back when, to Native Americans, African Americans, to women, really speaks to the history of Alfred University in a world that desperately needs us all to feel like we are one family and we can sit at the table together, for men, women, children, for all different, religions and colors, national, backgrounds when it comes to their nationality. To have a school that said before it became PC to do it, hey, we're going to do it. That means that it came from the heart, because it wasn't a force to do, it was a choice to do.
Found out a couple of years ago, Dan, that there's a town not too far away from Alfred in New York that seceded from the Union. So they actually joined the South. There was an underground railroad station in that town that was the only underground railroad station run by a woman in the whole network. That woman was an alumna of ours, early alumna. So it's just a little bit of a factoid, but something that where inclusivity can take you.
Yeah, the more I learn about Alfred University, the more I learn that the fabric of the United States of America and the history of the country, so many wonderful people and pieces of history stem back to Alfred, which is such a wonderful, wonderful thing to unpack, and we'll continue to do that. So I did bring this into the studio for a purpose, and I have to thank Mark Daines for this, but I have to say cheers, as I now have this right here in my studio that fits all too well, and I love that. I have the opportunity of cheersing Alfred to Wake Up Call right here in the studio.
Thank you for living the brand, and enjoy the rest of the week. And Dan, it's a pleasure partnering with you.
Absolutely a pleasure to be here with you in the presidential perspective that you'll find bi-monthly every single month here in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Alfred University, featuring their president, Mark Zupan. Mark, as always, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dan. Have a good rest of the day.
You too.